This is WORLDVIEW, and thank you for joining us live from our studio in Johannesburg. I'm Yvonne Katsande. Now, today on WORLDVIEW, we speak to Michael Tellinger. Let me just give you a brief history of who he is. Michael Tellinger graduated from Wits University in 1983 with a BPharm degree. Now, while studying, he spent most of his time moving within entertainment circles. In 2012, Tellinger founded the Ubuntu party in South Africa based on his principles of contributionism. It contested in the 2014 national elections. His song, We Come From Johannesburg, in 1986 was a 9-minute anti-apartheid epic. It was also the first rap album to be released by a South African artist. Now, the song was instantly banned due to its anti-government stance. Tellinger became a target of the regime, that is phone tapping, South African police surveillance, several threats on his life, and other intimidatory tactics. Now, the song was originally written by Michael Tellinger and Neil Johnson of Radio 702 fame in Los Angeles while living in exile. Tellinger and Johnson wrote the rap epic to put on record a South African perspective on the situation in their country. So joining me in studio tonight is Michael Tellinger himself, that is the leader of the Ubuntu political party, and Ntlalontle Ngcakaza, a youth activist here in South Africa. Good evening, gentlemen, and thank you for joining us.
Good evening.
Good evening, Yvonne. Thank you very much for inviting me on your show.
And it's a pleasure to have you in our studio. I know you drove all the way 3 hours from Mpumalanga just to be with us tonight. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Now, I will start with a big story that is making the rounds in the media. But actually, before we get to that particular story, just start by telling us, who is Michael Tellinger and what does he represent? What does he stand for?
Michael Tellinger is a human being who believes in the absolute freedom of humanity, in sharing knowledge and information with the people of South Africa and the world that will enable them to make the right decisions, to move us from an economic slavery system into true freedom and abundance, freedom from economic slavery, and abundance for all the people of South Africa that then expands into the rest of the world. Because this is where the Ubuntu movement and the Ubuntu party started. Ubuntu, after all, is an African philosophy. So this is I'm the messenger bringing back Ubuntu into the lives of South Africans and let the other people around the world learn from our experiences.
Okay. Now, getting into that story that I was talking about earlier that is making the headlines. In a special debate held in the National Assembly, opposition parties tore into the ANC about the failure to detain Sudanese President Omar alBashir in South Africa after a court order mandating this. Now, while the institution of the ICC came in for some skepticism from sections of the opposition, there were harsh words for the government's apparent disregard for South Africa's own rule of law. And ANC MPs remained defiant in the face of criticism and hinted strongly that South Africa may leave the ICC. Now, I'll start with you, Michael. What is your take on this whole Omar alBashir crisis?
You know, my knowledge of what's going on in the world of finance is very limited because we're so focused on what the Ubuntu plan is for the world. And the reason I say this, because everything and anything to do with the global economic structure, the entire way that it's been set up for the world and for individual countries, the way the central banks operate, how they control their governments, is part of the problem. So we've stopped focusing on that because it's like a circus. It's like a global circus going around creating problems and hoping and thinking that or pretending that they'll have solutions for the people. It's the same old scenario that they create, problem, reaction, solution, that is manufactured for the different countries and the people of those countries to continue going on dividing the people and creating more division and separation and poverty and control. So as the Ubuntu movement and the Ubuntu party, we don't focus on any of that. We focus on providing people with the good news, the foundation of knowledge and information about money, the origins of money, who controls the money, how the banking families control our governments, how the central banks pretty much run and are the highest authority.
We're actually getting there because
Exactly.
I have some very interesting questions to that regard. Would you like to comment a little on Omar alBashir?
Well, I'll have to agree with Mr. Tellinger here because the whole system is shaking. You know, the foundations of the system are shaking and everything just needs to be rethought. Because looking at the issue of Mr. Bashir, I don't believe that it was onto a responsibility for the South African government to arrest him while he's here for a African conference, of which Sudan is not even part of the ICC. You know, so it was a bit tricky for South Africa, and it could turn the people of Africa against South Africa to now arrest Mr. Bashir. And this ICC, its legislature, and its operations seem to be focused more on Africa, and I think Africa can resolve their own issues.
You think African leaders are being, they are more of victims
Yeah,
as compared to any other people, leaders in other parts of the world? Europe, Asia, name it?
I believe like Africa is being targeted because it's the weaker countries. So it's another way of the big guys manipulating and unsettling the people of Africa in a sense. So I think South Africa took the right decisions, but then they also have to, the people, our government needs to think these processes through, because why in the first place were they part of this body? What made them think this body will help them out? If now, when the issue arises now, of which they have signed down on the ICC, now it's becoming like a fireball for them to be able to do as what the ICC legislation entails for them to do. So they should have looked deep into it, but as I'm saying, I think they made the right decision.
By letting him go.
Not to arrest Mr. Bashir.
You know, I'd like to just add, I smell a big rat here, because this gentleman is from North Sudan. He's from North Sudan, right? Now, when you go and deposit foreign currency in South Africa at any bank, you have to first sign a disclaimer form that the money you're depositing was not received from a number of countries. Those countries are North Korea, Cuba, Iraq. Iraq's out of the way. It's Iran, Syria, and I forget which other, and one of them is North Sudan and South Sudan. And these are all the countries that do not belong to the Rothschild global banking family empire. So you can see what's going on here. Slowly but surely, these global banking families move into countries. This is how they destabilize countries that don't want to play the game with their global banking control. And this is...
I like the fact that you speak about the banking sector, particularly the one in South Africa. What do you think the South African Reserve Bank stands for? And do you, in your opinion, think that it has actually enslaved South Africans? How has it affected the South Africans themselves, and maybe the world at large as well?
Well, the South African Reserve Bank is like most the other central banks in the world. It was established in 1923, 10 years after the Federal Reserve System in the USA, 1913. And it's established by the Rothschild banking family. It's a private company that has the exclusive rights to issue and create money and control all the banks in South Africa. All the banks in South Africa report to Big Daddy, which is the South African Reserve Bank. They have the right to take an empty piece of paper, put a bunch of fancy logos on it, and turn it into a
legal tender.
A 20 trillion piece of document. And this is how they buy, and not buy, this is how they steal our mineral wealth, our property, our land. Everything is stolen from the South Africans by the South African Reserve Bank. And I've been going around the world and in South Africa telling people this, and many people that start researching this find the same conclusion eventually. At first it's a shock to the system, and when they get over the shock, then they realize we have to do something about it, is that the global banking industry is the largest organized crime syndicate in the world. That's all it is. It is not a noble business. People must get over that thing, oh, it's banking, it is an organized crime syndicate that has invaded countries, that has overthrown governments, that has killed, murdered, maimed, abducted, tortured. They have blood on their hands more than any other industry in the world. And sooner or later, the critical mass of this knowledge and information will filter through to the people on the street. And when the critical mass hits the street, I feel sorry for anyone in the banking industry, because we don't know what the people...
But do you actually think that people are aware of what you were saying, or people are conditioned to the fact that it's just a banking system that they have accepted in their lives? What do you think?
You know, people have been brainwashed so much. I mean, there's all kinds of tactics these people do. I mean, these people are smart, you know. They think, they don't think, they don't think. They think everything through. So the man on the street has been brainwashed so much, and you are born into this system. I also found out about this information maybe a year ago or something, and how old am I now, you know? So there's so much brainwashing and lies, and some lies are just, they've been lost in the system. You know, it's even difficult to track those lies. But you know, if you look at the facts and you really, I even found out about the information about promissory notes. I mean, there's so much information, but to break it down, yeah, this system is really enslavement, and it's a debt system. It functions on debt. I learned years ago that the Federal Reserve, they produce every note, every dollar at a debt. And then the question that arises is, where does the money to pay all this debt come from? I mean, you hear now America is in like trillions of dollars in debt. Who are they owing? Is the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
They owe it to a private company called the Federal Reserve Bank, the Federal Reserve System, which is a private company owned by a bunch of people. And this is the most important thing we need to get across to the people of South Africa and everybody else that watches this program around the world. All the central banks of the world operate on the same basis. They have the exclusive rights to create money. So our governments are borrowing money from a private company. It's like saying to Anglo-American or Edgar's or, you know, some private company, you have the exclusive right to make money. Anybody else does it, they go to jail for life. But you can do it until the cows come home. So it's insane that we allow, that our government allows this. And that brings up a serious issue. If our government is allowing a private company called the South African Reserve Bank to issue this debt money that enslaves all of us, steals our land, our country, our minerals, everything, how come they're doing this? That means that they're either ignorant of it, or they are knowledgeable of what's going on, and they're lying to us. Either of those two situations does not make them fit to lead anyone. And this is this very serious matter that we need to address with the people of South Africa. Okay,
now tell us more about these promissory notes that you have been talking about. What exactly are they? What is the purpose? What are we expecting out of it? What do they do? How do they benefit the people?
Well, money in itself is a promissory note. Remember, our money used to say, I promise to pay. The bearer, upon delivery, you know, one pound of gold or silver or whatever it used to say. In England, it still says, I promise to pay the bearer to 10 pounds of sterling silver or 20 pounds of silver, based on the face value on that piece of paper. It's a promissory note to pay in value of silver or gold. Now, that's what these notes were, promissory notes. I promise to pay. Now, this is why this whole money system, it's just a slavery system. It has no meaning. It has no value. It's just a trick.
So how can we eliminate it?
This is where the Ubuntu movement and the Ubuntu party comes in.
What are you saying?
With a plan of action.
Which is what?
Which is, first of all, we need to educate and inform the people about the money and the trickery and the lies behind it. Once people internalize that and they become comfortable with the fact that money is truly just a slavery system that was imposed on us, we don't need money, we need each other. Remember, money does nothing. People do everything. We grow the food, we plant the seeds, we solve the mathematical equations, we develop the technology. Money doesn't do that. What money does, it constantly gets in the way between our dreams and our hopes for what we want to do with our lives and preventing us from doing that. Now, there are various steps that we propose as the Ubuntu party to take us from the slavery, and it doesn't have to take a long time. It can happen really quickly, but people just need to be aware of where the cutoff is. So the first thing that needs to happen is, on a national level, we need to shut down the Reserve Bank. It's a private company. We cannot allow a private company to issue our money. We have to issue our money for ourselves, the people. A government of the people, for the people, by the people, that issues money for the people. Tax-free, interest-free, debt-free, no levies, no fees, no inflation. Why, if we produce our own money, why would we charge ourselves interest or get ourselves into debt? money should be a tool of to promote development, to promote abundance for the people. So that if I want to start anything that benefits my community, and this is really part of the Ubuntu Party plan on a national level. We have a different plan for a local level, but on a national level is to create a people's bank that issues money tax-free and interest-free, and allows anyone to move into any small town, any community, and start any kind of project that benefits their community that'll be funded by the People's Bank. And that then filters through to the skills, whether you want to start a dance studio or a research facility for rocket science.
And then it just continues, the chain continues.
And you
like
never
that.
have to pay it back, because you're not getting the money for yourself to buy land and or enrich yourself. You're getting the money to create a project, public works or a community project that benefits the community, that then creates skills transfer, opens the doors for invention, for research that has no ceiling. Money should never be the ceiling to our progress, but that's what it's become, because it's private money. Doesn't belong to us, it belongs to a corporation.
What is your take on what Michael is saying?
I completely agree with him. Look, you look at the cities. You know where I'm from, in Ntlalontle, Eastern Cape. When we were growing up, I mean, they used to irrigate. There was abundance of food. Now, people have come to the cities to trap themselves because they are not prospering here. Instead, it's creating crime, is creating overpopulation, all sorts of problems. So I think the way forward for prospering the people of South Africa is, again, to look at those fundamentals that they were actually doing right, because the system, the urban system is pressured so much that is causing all sorts of problems in the country. So if you go back and you empower people in the villages and you empower the small towns, I mean, eventually you will take over the whole country, or at least you'll be able to provide employment and provide food. That's why people go to cities, to be able to feed their families. So if you do that,
now, because of time, I'm actually going to have to move very fast because we still have quite a number of questions. But I just want you briefly to comment on the issue. You did raise a point where you said that South Africa is registered as a corporation on the US Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
How did you mean by saying that?
Every country, every state, every province, every city is registered as a corporation. This is one part of the big lie that you expose when you start researching this enslavement system that's controlled by the central banks, by the global banking industry, the financial stock markets, and this one big giant game, this Ponzi scheme that was created by the banking families that make it look so important and so complicated that only a few people understand it. No, it's one big Ponzi scheme that was created to enslave us and made to look complicated. So every country is a corporation. When the South African Constitution is the constitution of what? The Republic of South Africa. In there already lies the lie. Most of the people in South Africa believe that it's a constitution for the people. No, it's a constitution for a corporation called the Republic of South Africa. We live in a land called South Africa. The company is called the Republic of South Africa. So when you read, this is the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, what you're reading is it's a constitution of a corporation. It has nothing to do with the rights of the people, but the rights of the corporation. And in the first preamble, the first opening paragraph of our Constitution, it says, it gives you the whole emotional garbage to hook everybody in, right? We believe in the freedom and we honor those that fought and died and blah, blah, blah. That's all part of the emotional stuff to hook people in. And then it says, and we believe that the country belongs to its people. We believe, we think, we don't know that it does. Can you see the difference?
Okay, I am getting the picture.
Because
of what
the
you're saying
country
there.
is South Africa. It's not the Republic of South Africa. The Republic of South Africa is a corporation, and South African government issues an annual report to a law firm called Linklater's in New York City, who have just opened a branch here in Sandton City.
Okay, now, so what do you make of the idea by the late Muammar Gaddafi of a United States of Africa using one currency, which then he had proposed the gold dinar? Does that make sense? Is that strategic? Is that productive? Will that be a successful project? What is your take on that?
I think it's long overdue. Maybe First of all, you know, rest in peace to Gaddafi. That's a very smart man. You know, one of the smartest, in my opinion. I believe that Gaddafi had a point. You know, because okay, you're coming from America trading with the dollar, and I'm the man. I'm here sitting on gold, maybe one gold. Now you're telling me your dollar is worth 100 times more than, okay, whatever currency I'm using, you know. Like, in simple terms now, is that fair to me?
You tell us, is it fair?
I don't think so.
I think what Tlalo is saying is that, that idea of Gaddafi is what got him killed, because that put him completely in opposition to the Rothschild banking empire.
So this idea of a united Africa states eliminates the Rothschild empire completely?
Absolutely.
No one wants a powerful Africa.
But remember, Africa is the most abused continent, historically, and remains the most abused continent. And it's time we stop it. We've got to put an end to it. And the only way we're going to put an end to it is to inform and educate the people about the historic manipulation and control by these banking families. This is not something that's been going on for a few decades or a few hundred years. This goes back thousands of years to the same royal bloodlines in Babylon. You know, some people refer to this money system as the Babylonian magic money slavery system. That's what it's referred to by certain researchers.
Okay, so you talk about, you know, Africa being abused for a long time. It takes me to the next question, which is, what is your comment on the so-called influence from the West? Should I call it geopolitics? That we have seen destroy some African countries, some Middle East countries as well. The influence seems to somehow have some sort of like a negative impact, if I may say. What do you think about that?
You know, Michael touched on the fact that, you know, the banking cartels have so much blood in their hands. I mean, if you look at it and you research it, they have had some type of influence in most of the wars that have happened in the world. They've been fiddling with the CIA. You know, CIA acts as, you know, outstretch of their hand in many situations. I mean, look at what happened in Middle East. I mean, Libya, they removed the leader there because of the oil. So look at the situation now that is happening, which is causing all kinds of immigration issues all over Europe, you know. And man, the mess that these people make is immeasurable. Like, cause it's always tracing back to profit. You know, look at DRC. Mm-hmm. What is the history of DRC? So much bloodshed, and you don't even see that in the news.
Okay, I've literally got 5 minutes to go.
Well,
what is your comment on this?
Let's just start with the invasion of the free world started by the Europeans about 500 years ago, when they started, when I started calling the thugs from Europe started invading the Americas, Africa, and Asia, mm-hmm. and you know, and from Columbus to Bartholomew Diaz and Vasco da Gama and all those guys, and then the Cooks that went out to Australia and just invaded the land, took over the land, planted their flag. The first bank in South Africa, just so that people may not know this, the first bank in South Africa was started in 1652 when Jan van Riebeeck landed here on behalf of the Dutch East India Company. And the Dutch East India Company was the first bank in this country.
Is it connected to the Rothschild? Well,
it's the royal bloodlines. Dutch East India Company was the royal elite from Holland, the Prince of Orange, and they all connected. Those bloodlines, those kings are all connected to each other. Okay.
So
you see this control goes back thousands of years, and 500 years they decided, and you can see it was a period where they decided to invade the world and create what I call a species with amnesia. And the way you create a species with amnesia, you invade the free world, you sever the people from their ancestors, you remove all their knowledge, you kill all their wise men and women and their knowledge keepers that have been holding knowledge for thousands of years. You burn all their written material, you destroy all their knowledge, and you create a species with amnesia. So now we're sitting with a problem in Africa with all the wise men and women that have carried that information. There are very few left. We need to honor them and respect them and bring their knowledge back and start sharing that.
In the last 3 minutes, what are your thoughts on the issue of nationalization?
I think the wealth of the people should be on the hands of the people.
If I must really very quickly, nationalization is a double-edged sword. Nationalization, if it's nationalized by the corporation called the Republic of South Africa, then absolutely not, because then it belongs to the bankers, right? Now you see why the country is a corporation. This is how they stole Eskom from us. This is how they stole the railways from us. This is how they steal all the mineral rights from us. So if the Republic of South Africa or the government nationalizes it, that means it's owned by the corporation. If it belongs to the people, that's something completely different.
Okay, any last remarks? Any final remarks? I have 2 more minutes to go. Any final remarks? Would you like to say something? You're a young, youth activist, speaking on behalf of all the young people out there that are listening and watching right now.
I'd just like to say, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, there's the Ubuntu party here, and they are doing great work. And I think it's really empowering to the people. It's not about one government, because the government have really taken all the liberties of the people with this terrorism and propaganda, because even if you look at it, what George Bush came in and did is almost like what Hitler did, which is practice fascism, whereby we act like we're the ones who are like we are being attacked so that the people can give us all the power. So when they give us all the power, you take all the rights from the people and seem like the good guy who's protecting the people. So I just think, this is a bright future for South Africa, and it needs a lot of young people who are going to believe in this vision of taking back the power to the people, not killing anyone, but mobilizing and providing and prospering the people.
Okay, and Michael?
It's a movement of consciousness. We're moving into high consciousness, unity consciousness. If the young people of South Africa and the world don't stand up and do something now, they will have nothing left by the time they're 30 or 40 years old. It'll all have been stolen from them by the governments and the banks that control them. We have a future. We have a plan. It's a simple plan. Remember, the country belongs to its people. The government is supposed to be the servant of the people. And this is exactly what the Ubuntu Party proposes to do, is to bring back the control into the hands of the people and let people govern themselves in their own communities.
Well, thank you very much. 30 minutes is never enough time on Worldview, especially when we have to delve into such issues and things that are affecting people everywhere in the world. Like you did say earlier when we were speaking, that even the rich people are worried, even the poor people are worried.
Yes.
So maybe in our next episode, you will talk to us more about that. And of course, about the issue that you had with Standard Bank.
Yes.
You had a case with Standard Bank.
Oh, yes.
That is a case of interest. So we'll talk about that in the next episode. Well, that's all we have time for, viewers. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of the program. Join us again next week, same time, as we bring you more insight on the world's current affairs and political issues. Thank you for watching. Good evening.